Hello, good morning, everyone. Please, we'll be waiting 5 more minutes for others to join. Then we'll start the meeting. We're still waiting for the presenter. Thank you very much. Hello, good morning once again. Our instructor is having a bit of technical issues from his end, but yes, he's working on it and will join us soon. Thank you very much. Hello, good morning once again. Please, while we wait for the facilitator, can we take a recap of what we did yesterday? Um, I'd like someone to just share their thoughts on what they've learned yesterday. Hello, are we on the call? Hello, please, if you're on the call, let's drop a message on the chat saying hi. Okay, so yesterday we learned what grantsmanship is, and we learned a few processes of how to write grants. We also learned how to write high impact journals. Can anyone share with us their experience or their thoughts on what we've learned on any of those areas? Okay, our facilitator just joined. He will be taking a recap of what we learned yesterday, then he'll be moving on to today's session. Welcome, Mr. Adeyinka. You're muted, sir. Hello, Engineer Adeyinka, you're muted.
Okay. Good morning. Sorry. Hope you can hear me.
Good morning, sir.
Okay. Good morning. Good morning, everyone. I'm sorry for joining a bit
Sir, can you be
late.
a bit louder?
Okay. Can you hear me better?
Yes, sir. Thank you very much, sir.
Okay. Thank you. I'm sorry for joining a bit late. My system just gone a while and I'm trying to come in again. Okay. Once again, good morning and thank you for joining us. I will briefly be standing in for Professor Ibinu, who who will join us very, very soon. And this morning, before we go into the to the main talk for today, I just want to take a brief recap of what we learned yesterday. I know we might have done this, but I'm sorry. I want to do that again so that I will know whether we need to clarify anything, or, I mean, at least to give us a good place to start. So please, can we have a little recap? What becomes a takeaway for you in the, I mean, since the beginning of this webinar? What have you learned? What do you learn? Or somebody saying no audio. Is that true?
Please try to unmute. Please try to unmute and see.
Is it for
Hello,
me?
can anyone try to unmute?
Okay. Please, let's try to unmute and speak. Mohammed, is it from your side?
Hello.
Okay, thank you, Engineer Oladepo.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning, sir.
Yeah, I'm okay now.
Okay,
Thank
okay, please
thank
go
you.
ahead. Who is speaking? Please go ahead.
Okay, what do we? Sorry. Hello.
Yes,
Yes, sir.
we
Sir,
can
please,
hear
we
you.
want you to give us a recap of what you learned from yesterday's presentation.
Okay. Yesterday we started with the definition of grantsmanship, and then we went through a few things. Then we got to the 5 P's of grantsmanship, and then the 10 rules to observe when writing and submitting our grant application. So that's the first part. The second part is the how to publish the results of whatever we get from the grants that we have got. I think those are the two key things that we did yesterday.
Okay, thank you very much. Can we have one or two more people to tell us what they learned yesterday? Especially personally to you. What do you learn? Please, you can unmute. We want to have feedbacks from you, please. Who is speaking? Please, we can hear you. I mean, we want to hear you. Okay. All right. So if there's nobody else, okay, I think I'm reading something here now. Okay, yeah, I learned that one has to persevere in writing. It takes time. Yes, thank you very much. It is true. It takes time, and one just have to start. Just make up your mind that you're going to do this and you're going to do it well. Thank you very much. Okay, if there's no other person coming up, we will go to today's presentation. Okay, please confirm that you can see my screen.
I can from my end, sir.
Okay, thank you. So this morning we're talking about proposal writing just before Prof join us, and he will take us further from there. So our objective this morning is to take us through the content of your proposal, what should be in the proposal. So we will study in detail the title, introduction, objective, hypothesis, material, tentative timetable, that's Gantt chart, and how to draft your budget. Please, is somebody trying to talk? Um, okay. Please just let me know if you have a question. Okay, so we start with title. Of course, just like we said yesterday, while we are looking at um, publishing, title is very important. You want it to be short and specific, and you also want it to you want it to inform your reader. This time around, your reader will know is not people that want to cite. Your reader is not people that want to read to gain knowledge. Your reader is not people that want to use your research work. Rather, this time around, people that are going to read are those that want to fund your project. So these are funders, and so what you want to write will be something that will form the first impression about your research, about your proposal, so to say. So I like us to think of it as the first word in your marketing language. So let it be short, let it go straight to the point, but in fact, let it be a summary of the entire thing that you would like to say to your reader. Um, and of course, the next thing to talk about is the introduction. So the aim of the introduction is to convince your reader that you have identified a research problem that is worthy of investigating. So you want to convince them that it is, I mean, you have just identified a problem. Now this problem, if they fund it, is going to do this and that, and the aim of doing that is that you want them to bring money out of their pocket and give you. So the introduction is to convince the reader, it is to convince. So you want to start very broad. You want to talk about a galactical problem, why everybody has been having this problem, and then you want to narrow it down. But part of the introduction is also to highlight the key concept and the practical significance. Now, this second point is very, very important, because as a researcher, most of the time we are just researcher. We want to talk about concept, we want to talk about theory. We don't want to really bring it home as to how does this affect you, what is the practical, what is the significance of this. Whereas the people that are going to read your proposal, people that are going to fund your proposal, what they care about is the significance of your work. Yeah, theory is going to make them know that, yeah, you know what you're saying, but then after knowing what you're saying, what is the benefit of this to, say, humanity? What is the benefit of this to Nigeria? What is the problem? What's the benefit of this to so many other applications that you may want to point at? So as you are bringing out the concept, you also want to bring out the practical significance of what you are saying. Then you want to reduce it to narrow down to your topic. They used to say it should be an inverted cone. The cone has a broad base and then a narrow tip. So you start with a broad base and then you start narrowing down. So, and how do you narrow it down? You do that by raising questions and stating answer from literature. That is, you start from known to unknown, and the known is by asking question. The question you raise will make your reader to identify with the problem that you're talking about. For instance, I could be writing a proposal. I could be making a proposal on how to solve farmer-elder clashes, and so questions to be asked, to ask is, how have we been living together before? And this will make people to, they want to provide answer to every question that you raise. That's how human brain is wired. Whenever I see a question that I know the answer of, my brain will attempt to answer it. And by the time you provide the answer that my brain agrees with, I identify with what you're saying. So you raise questions, and your questions help you to narrow down, your discussion. And then stating the answer from the literature is that you're stating facts. Just like Prof was saying yesterday, that proposal writing is not a bar talk. It's not something that you say vaguely. It should be something that you say authoritatively from the authority of the literature that you have considered. That is, this is what people have done on it. This is what this one say. This is what we know as a body of knowledge up till this point. So establish your rationale. It is not, and so establishing your rationale is saying that provide a rational answer. It's not all research questions that cannot be answered. Some can be answered. Some has answer currently. So let there be an establishment of the rationale behind all the discussions that you are saying. All right. So after the introduction is the objective. An objective, I may say, um, by the little I know and I've learned from Prof and working with other people, I know it is one of the most important aspects of your proposal. In fact, it is so important that for a couple of times I've worked on projects, funded projects, I know at the time you want to submit your project, when they want to stamp your project and say, yeah, you are done, what they will bring out is your objective. And then they will go after it. I mean, they go over it one by one. So you said you are going to do this. Have you done it? What can we see that, what is the evidence that you have achieved it? So when you're writing objective, this is the core of your work. This is where you tell people what you want to do. Also, your objective is central to your proposal. It is on your objective that your method will stand on. And of course, your literature review, whatever literature you have reviewed or the problem that you have identified must also agree with your objective. So this is a very important aspect of proposal writing, and we'll take a couple of slides to look at this in depth. So the objective provides a clear statement of overall question. That is the general objective. So there is a general objective, which is the broad overall question that your proposer is trying to, the question your proposer is trying to answer, or the problem your proposer is trying to solve, the general objective. Now, this will be followed with action-oriented task, which is called specific objective. I filled a couple of proposal, and I know that most often they separate these two, and this is in fact the term that they use. So they won't tell you what is your aim and what is your objective. Rather, they will say what is your general objective, what is your specific objective. So if you have more than one, which you will definitely have, then you want to you want to state them sequentially as they follow each other. This action leads to this action, and that action leads to the next action. So that is outright. Okay. So the objective of a research project summarize what is to be achieved by the study. Objectives should be closely related to the statement of the problem. Of course, your objective and and the problem statements must agree together, because this is the rationale. If I am saying that um, the farmer elder clashes in Nigeria is because so thing is happening to so other thing, and so my objective is what is saying that, yeah, I have a solution to this farmer elder clashes in Nigeria. And so I must say that, okay, this is the solution I have that is going to solve the problem statement that I have that I have identified. So the two of them must closely relate to each other. The two of them must corroborate each other. So I said earlier that we have general objective and specific objective. So the general objective states what the researcher expects to achieve by the study in the general term. So if I have still using the farmer elder classes, I say, okay, by this research proposal, I am saying, okay, I'm proposing something to identify every full animal and every cattle in Nigeria. So that is going to be my general objective, that I am proposing a system of identifying or monitoring every Fulani man and every cattle that is in Nigeria. So, and then I'll go ahead and whatever, try to explain it and say that. But then the specific objective is now a logical, is a smaller logical connected part of the general objective. Yeah, I say I'm going to come up with a system that identify every full animal and every cattle in Nigeria. Then the next question people will ask me is, how are you going to do that? And so the how I am going to do that must be logical enough. People must be able to follow it up. It must be specific. It must be measurable. It must be something. It must be something connected to something tangible. Something there should be a deliverable with it. So they specified. They are the specific aspect of the project that we want to study within the framework. So I want to identify every full animal and every cattle in Nigeria. How am I going to do that? I may say, yeah, I'm going to do that by using 5G, by using AI, by using digital twin, by using this and that, you know. So that is what I want to do, but I must provide it in a framework that that are specific to the study I want to study, to the problem I want to study. So specific objectives should be systematically addressed, should systematically address the various aspects of the problem and the key factors that are assumed to influence or cause the problem. So a very good specific objective will be such as it identifies every aspect of the problem, not just one of the problem, but every aspect of the problem. They should specify what we will do in our study, where we are going to do it, and for what purpose we're going to do it. You know, this rule looks so bogus, and somebody will wonder, can I have a specific objective that is going to cover all of this rule? Of course, yes, you will. And that is why Prof was saying yesterday that after you draft your proposal, you want to give it to somebody who will help you cross-check it and criticize it. You know, by the time you have people to criticize it, they will help you to factor all of these things, put all of these things into consideration. So an example, a study in the cost and quality of home-based care for HIV patients and their community in Zimbabwe, for example, has its general objective stated like this: to explore to what extent community home-based care projects in Zimbabwe, rather, not Nigeria, provide adequate, affordable, and sustainable care of good quality to people with HIV/AIDS, and to identify ways in which these services can be improved. Now, let's look at this objective. This is a general objective, you know, and let's look at the general objective and see some of the things that that are there. By looking at this objective, you know, we don't see the topic. We have not read the introduction. We have not read the problem statement. But from this general objective, we can identify the problem that they are going to solve. You know, if you can unmute, please, I want you to identify the problem together with me. What is the problem that this general objective, what is the problem that you think this general objective is trying to solve? Please, you can unmute or type your answer on the... Please, you can unmute or type your answer. What is the problem that you think they are going, they want to solve by reading this general objective? Okay, well, maybe I should just go ahead. All right, so the problem they want to solve is to study, like they want to study the extent to which community home-based projects, community provide adequate, affordable, sustainable, quality care for people with HIV/AIDS. You know, that is the problem. They want to study. They know that there is a problem like there is an inadequacy and there's an inadequate provision of quality healthcare for people with HIV, and that is why they want to study it. And so from this also we can see what is the solution they want to provide. So they further on to go that to identify ways in which these services can be improved. So which means that they are working on a way of improving the provision of adequate, affordable, sustainable, quality healthcare service for people with HIV/AIDS. So this is how a quality general objective, is written. This is quite different from how I will have stated if I'm writing a project. Generally what we used to do is to turn the topic of our project into the general objective. So if I have a topic that is saying that I want to develop an automatic, automatic insulin system for people with diabetics in Nigeria. So I'll say my aim, let's say my topic is development of automatic or intelligent insulin injection for diabetic patients in Nigeria. So usually the way we go is to say the aim of this project or the general objective is to develop blah, 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 blah. But that is not the thing. You can see how they come up with coining the problem statement in another way and then providing solution in another form. So altogether, the general objective is even broad enough to make us understand and identify with the problem they are trying to solve. So now the objective, the general objective now is splitted into the following objective. Number one, to identify the full range of economic, physiological, health or nursing care and other needs of patients and their family affected by AIDS. So that is addressing one aspect of the general objective that they have stated. Second, to determine the extent to which formal and informal support system address the need from the viewpoint of service provider as well as patients. Also addressing a part of, then third, to determine the economic cost of community home-based care to the patient and family as well as to the former community home program themselves. To relate the calculated cost to quality of care provided to the patient by the family and to the family or patient by the community health-based care program. Again, and also to determine how improved CHBC and informal support network can contribute to the needs of persons with AIDS and other chronically terminal ill patients. 6, to use the finding to make recommendation on the improvement of CHBC. So the whole idea of this example is just to show us that whereas they come up with a general the general objective in this form, what they are stating for, in the specific objective, it's as if they break everything down into bit by bit, and they are providing an action-based statement to tell us that this is what their study is all about, and by going through this objective, they will achieve the general objective that they have stated. All right. Please, do we have any question? Is there any question? Okay.
Hello.
Yes, sir. Please go ahead.
The way I think the aim and the general objectives are the same.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir. So what we're trying to say is that in most of the research proposal that you will be filling, they will not tell you to fill in your aim. Rather, they'll call it general objective. So the general objective is the aim. The specific objective is what we call objective in quotes. Is that fine, sir?
Okay, yes.
Okay, thank you, sir. All right, so why should research objective be developed? One, to focus the study, narrowing it down to the essentials. So to avoid the collection of data which are not strictly necessary for understanding and solving the problem we have identified. 3, to organize the study in clearly defined parts or phases. So what we're saying in excess is that the reason why you want to coin your objective is that you want to make it focused and avoid unnecessary collection of data, like focus, so that you will not bother chasing the wind, and you want to organize your study in a clearly defined part. So your objective must achieve this. Properly formulated specific objective will facilitate development of our research methodology, and we help to orient the collection, analysis, interpretation, and utilization of data. So in another word, what we're saying is that by properly formulating your specific objective, in fact, your research methodology will be clear right from here. So there's no way you will formulate a good specific objective that your research methodology will not be piercing. So, and once again, let us remember that this is not a research paper. This is not a paper to publish. This is a paper for people to fund your project. So the objective is not should not be something that is vague to the funder, I mean to the people that are in the panel. So it should be something that is associated to the problem they are interested in funding. You know, and saying that again, I hope that when Prof comes, is also going to speak on the objective of each funding agent. So, for instance, the objective of TED Fund is different from the objective of PTDF. That's what they want to fund. What the two of them want to fund is different. And what PTDF want to fund is different from what NCC want to fund. You know, so your objective again must at least align with the objective of your funding agent. So if the funding agent, for instance, let's take PTDF as an example. If PTDF, we know we want to fund we want to fund home-based solution, that's homegrown solution that address petroleum in both Niger Delta and transporting it to other parts of Nigeria. So if I write any proposal to PTDF, it must be as to address oil and gas, oil spillage, and other problems surrounding that. If I come now and I'm bringing maybe a proposal on cancer, you know, however piercing, however good that proposal is, because it doesn't align with them, they will not be able to identify with it, and they will not be able to fund that kind of project. So again, your objective must align with the objective of the funding agent. Okay, I know Prof, we talked about that very, very much later. Okay, so take care that the objective of your study covers different aspects of the problem and is contributing factor in a coherent way and a logical sequence, and are clearly phrased in operational terms. It must be in action words, and that they are realistic considering local conditions. So if I say, if your research objective is saying that it's going to maybe launch a satellite into in the space now, we know it is not realistic considering our local condition and some other things like that. So Prof is with us now, and so let me just quickly round up by 11 so that he can join, he can take us further. All right, so another aspect is the hypothesis. So you will have to state your hypothesis. The hypothesis is the prediction of a relationship between one or more factor and the problem under consideration. So this is the problem that you are solving, and so the hypothesis is that because of this problem I'm studying, I think by addressing this problem or by providing this solution, this problem will be solved. So it can be it is a prediction of factors that affect the problem that you are solving. Okay, there are two types of the characteristics of hypothesis. It is a declarative statement that identifies the predicted relationship between two or more variables. It is testable and is based on sound scientific theory, or rationale. So this can be stated maybe in a declarative sentence. Some other proposal, it may be stated as your research question. So let's take care of that. Two types of hypotheses which should be studied, which we should be familiar with, I believe many of us are familiar with, is the null hypothesis and the alternate or experimental hypothesis. The null hypothesis always predict that there will be no difference between the group being studied. By contrast, the alternate hypothesis predict that there will be a difference between the two groups, all right? And the hypothesis can be directional or non-directional. Directional means that it specifies the direction of the relationship between independent and dependent variable. Non-directional means that it shows the existence of the relationship between the variable, but no direction is specified. Okay, so your hypothesis can also be research-based or statistical-based. So research hypotheses are scientific hypotheses, a statement about the expected relationship of variable, and it can either be directional or non-directional. Whereas the statistical is the null hypothesis. It states that there is no relationship between the variable or the variables under consideration. So yeah, so you also have research questions, which is more or less like the hypothesis. All right, so we come to methodology. In the methodology, your methodology should state, you should state your methodology explicitly. If you can use block diagram, use block diagram to show the entire flow and how they connect with each other. It should provide enough detail for readers to follow. They should be able to identify with it. But much more than that, again, let us have at the back of our mind that this is not just a research at this point, it is a proposal, and the proposal is to people that will fund it. So you should connect your methodology at every point, stating how it is significant, how it will significantly contribute to the problem that you are considering, and how it will benefit the group of people that your funding agents want to benefit. So first give an overall summary of your study design and give the methodological approach, then provide the methodology for each specific objective. So you should describe in your methodology the specific design, what you will do and how, the number of replicates, and so on, the material and techniques that will be used, and the feasibility of these techniques. You should use literature to support design, material, and techniques. Needs to repeat. Okay, so then at the end of the day, you have references. All the references that you have used, you may use it, you may list it alphabetical order, or use maybe IEEE referencing style. Okay, then the Gantt chart. The Gantt chart show the timeline of your project, how each project will be how each objective will be achieved, and at what time are you allocating to them. It can be sequential, meaning that one must end before the other one start, or it may be that two can go on together concurrently. So this should show to your reviewers, to the funder, that if you come to my lab at the end of first quarter, then this is what you are going to have. If you come at the end of the second quarter or the middle of third quarter, this is what you will have met. So that is what a Gantt chart should show. All right. So, and then finally is the budget. The budget should show what you want to do and how you're going to use the money that you are requesting for. And most importantly, it should connect to your specific objective, because the specific objective is telling them what you want to do and how you're going to do it. And of course, you need money for all of these things. So it should not be something that is out of scope. It should not be like part of your budget will be buying a car when car is not needed for your work. And also, one should take care that it is not beyond the amount your funding agent want to fund, and it should not be unrealistic. So unrealistic in that if my funding agent wants to fund up to 50 million naira, I should not ask. It's not necessary that I ask the whole 50 million in my research. because if my research does not need it. And also it must not be too small, so that if I, okay, when I look at my project and I say, oh, 25 million naira will be okay, you know, it should not be too small, because being too small means that you are selling yourself too low, and being too high may be like you are too greedy. So let's play it smart. All right, thank you very much. I will take your question in the next 10 minutes so that Prof can take us further. Thank you very much. Are there any questions? Any question? Okay, so if there's no question, I want us to welcome our mentor, Professor Abiodun Musa Aibinu, the Vice Chancellor of Summit University. You're welcome, sir.
Okay, thanks a lot, Yinka, and then it's my pleasure to be here with us all again this morning. Thanks a lot for talking about research proposal. Okay, there have been, okay, I will also take that question. Is Gantt chart necessary for social science? Yes. Gantt chart is to show your program of activities, what you will do at what point, and also try to include a milestone in it, milestone. So not only putting the Gantt chart, you must also at least add you must at least add milestone to it. So today I will be answering about 3 questions, or I will be taking us about 3 different things.
Sorry, Prof, somebody raised up his hand.
Yeah, okay. Abdul Kadri Mustafa, you can ask your question, please.
Mr. Mustafa, please go ahead with your question, sir.
Okay, maybe it was raised in error, so let us just continue. Okay, let's move on. So today I will be answering the question on chat and searching. Someone asked the question yesterday, and I said it is part of what I will be addressing today. So please, you are highly welcome to learn about searching, where fundamental of grant application, which is under the Grantsmanship. But this is not where I will be starting. I just want to how to search for grants, what donors look out for in grants application, and why grant application fail to get funded. I will be answering those 3 questions, and I will also be introducing us to some business model, because why some application gets rejected has to do with wrong business model. So let me quickly go over, and then this, yesterday I talked about knowledge triangle, and I talk about that we in the academia, we are involved in 3 things: knowledge generation, knowledge dissemination, and knowledge application. And mostly that's why people doesn't know about most of what we do. They believe that we say, or the normal belief is that we spend almost 75% of our time on knowledge dissemination, that is teaching. So to me, I will want to suggest to some of us that are in the academy that we should try as much as possible to actually use this approach. Let 30% of our time be on knowledge generation, 50% on knowledge dissemination, and then 20% on knowledge application. So that is, so Engineer Yinka have mentioned basic grant writing, so I won't talk much about that. Grant writer has a fantastic potential to help your organization. And then these are the, mostly what are those things expected there? The cover letter, summary, misstatement, and the cover letter is just to show what the whole thing is all about. And it's more or less like the executive summary, and the executive, this is the cover letter. You write with the grant submission. But executive summary, the cover letter can be in form of an email. Never you submit your proposal by just attaching it, or your CV by just attaching it without anything. So you must briefly state what the proposal is asking for, and you summarize what is in there. And keep in mind that it will be your first opportunity to connect with the people who can fund your grant. So always remember, cover letter is different from executive summary. Executive summary or abstract is a brief description of your business. It summarizes this report and the reader, so that the reader doesn't have to go through it in detail. So the need statement is just what the statement is the meat of your grant proposal. You must convince the funder that you propose to do is essential. And the goals and objective, he has mentioned that the methodology must be clear, and the information about your organization must be there too, the budget. So I will still be taking the budget also today. So let us now look at the basic thing, which is how to search for grants. This question was asked yesterday. Where to search and how to search. Where to search and how to search. Number one that you need to do if you want to search online is identify your search criteria. Identify your search criteria. Identify your search criteria. Please, moderator, please help us note. Okay. Identify your search criteria. Your criteria can include keyword about the subject matter that you are working on. It can include the area, it can include the audience, but you must have search criteria. And for that one, moderator, please help us mute. Yeah, okay, thanks. So hope you are seeing my slide, please. Hope you are seeing
Yes,
my
sir.
slide.
Yes, sir, we can see your slide.
Okay. So identify this. Identify your search criteria. That is the first thing. And that one can even include location, target, and the rest. And then number two, once you identify, develop a comprehensive list in advance so that you can refine and focus your search quickly. Don't just identify and put them in your brain. Write them down. That's another thing. Identify and put them down. Have a note. It can be e-note, it can be, but but putting the note in your brain is what I don't advise. Put those criteria down. It can be geographical criteria, it can be anything, put them down. And then number three, use the subject area again to find the best funding possibility. If you are working in biotechnology now, biotechnology is an area. So you can just say biotech plus grants in other social. So that's why you say choose your subject area and the type of support you want. Biotechnology plus research grant. Your strongest prospect will be foundation and corporation that have interest in one of your subject area. Engineering, you can mention about NCC. NCC will only fund work related to telecommunication. If you are working now on some other things that are just out of their focus, they won't want to fund it. So your subject area will assist you on that. Look for funder located in your geographical area and then amenable to your local funding. That's another thing. But let me state it to us that in Nigeria, it is the probability and your prospect of winning international grant is much more higher than winning local grants. That is a fact I want you to take home. That is better you go for international grants, but go for local grant to start your career. Once you have one or two local grants, then you can start working on international grants. So number two, use the subject area to find the best funding possibility. Number three, learn all you can about your prospective grantor. Most of us, we just think that social media is for you to post your own and their picture. No, If you are looking for funding from NCC, add them on their Facebook, on their Twitter, on their LinkedIn, and you follow up with them. You use that one to get enough information about them. Study all the information on each prospective donor or grantor you identify so that you can determine just how good a match your organization and grantor will be. So if you are looking for opportunity or funding from any agency, please add them to your social media list and then visit their website often in order to learn more about them. The more you know about them, the more your chances of getting funded by them. Number four, use the information to craft a proposal that speaks to funders specifically. I've mentioned that yesterday. You must speak to the funding agency. Stop speaking and writing to yourself. Speaking to the funding agency means that determine the preference of your target funder, make each grant proposal unique to them. Avoid transferring section of an old proposal into a new one if it doesn't match fully. So it is always good you speak to the funding agency. And then I normally also advise that you create a prospect grid or spreadsheet. Your spreadsheet should include those who are likely going to fund you and what are those things they fund and the requested amount and the deadline. So that's another thing. In our own research group or in our own small effort, we have one or two people that their own job is just to look for funding for us online, funding opportunity online. So you must dedicate someone or one member of your team to look for that. Don't forget, yesterday I said grantmanship is a full-time job. Grantmanship is a full-time job. So this is how you can search on the net. This is how you can search on the net. And let's take Google as a case study. So let's take that one as a case study. Number one, there are a lot of searching or search tool on the web and less, but let's just take Google. Number one, you can use the keyword, you can set the result time, you can set the alert, and then you can even use the picture, the images, and the rest in order to search. So let's see. Number one is that you can search on Google by even adding some keywords and some types. Like now, if you type proposal plus PDF, it will bring out proposal that are really that is in PDF format for you. So set Google search result time restraint that you can even set the time that, okay, once it is between this time and this time, they get me the result. And then you can also search using what is called advanced Google image search. That's another thing. You can set it by image size, region, the file type, and even you can mention the color on your Google. And also you can do math in your Google search box. You can also do that. And then you can track and the rest. So all those things can be done on your Google search. So let me allow for question before I move to the second part of the first part. Thank you. So please ask your question. Ask your question. Please, let's ask question. It is time for a question on how you can search. We have mentioned about 5 things. Create your keywords, am I right? Create your criteria, have your matrix grid, and the rest. How many of us does that even ahead of now? So how many of us? So let's ask question, please. You can unmute yourself if you want to ask question. Please feel free to unmute yourself. Feel free before we move to the next part. Good morning, sir.
Thank you very much, and thank you for the wonderful presentation, sir. My question goes though, sir. Can we have a show of some of those skills, like those are example of the keywords you are referring to, like the one you said in your last presentations?
Okay, I
Um,
will do that after this. Okay, I will do it. I
okay,
will,
sir.
yes, I will
Secondly,
pass
sir.
on.
Secondly, sir.
Go on, please.
Okay, sir. Are there the procedure for the academic grant and business grant? I did the same thing like the class we gave us yesterday. Are we going to follow the same procedure for academic and business grant in case there is any, sir?
Generally, they follow the same procedure and rest, but there are some areas that are a bit different. Like now, when you are writing, when it is business grant, it is better you use executive summary than abstract. Just some synonyms like that. Executive summary, they prefer it in business grant than abstract. And then when you are talking about problem statements in academic grant, in the business grant, they talk about the need and the niche. The need and the niche. So, but almost the same thing. Almost the same thing. So I will also talk, and then when you are talking about academic grant, we dwell so much on methodology, methodology and materials. While in the business grant, they talk about market, market, market. So those are the areas. But the most important thing is they follow almost the same process. Thank you.
I have a
Hello.
question.
Yeah, please go on.
Okay, the question I have in terms of searching for grants. Sometimes some of us have discovered that some institutions or bodies will ask for proposal, but the integrity of these institutions at times also matters. For example, when you submit your proposal to them, you gather yourself as a researcher group and you have done a lot of work and you submit your proposal only at the end of the day to discover that proposals are gathered here and there just to give it to one of them to rewrite it and win the grant. Okay, what can we do in order when searching for these grants or the institution that normally give grants? Is there a way to be able to determine their level of integrity? I don't know how to put it better. That, okay, this call for grant, they were genuine. Okay, they will base it on, they are very objective about it. Things so that you're not just be wasting your time and be writing and be writing. At the end of the day, this is what you discover at times that goes on, particularly some of the local grants. Is there a way we
Okay,
can
sir.
circumvent that? Yeah.
Thanks a lot, sir, for seeking clarification on that. What you have said at times may look as what is happening. The first thing I will always want us to do is that the organization. Once you are not sure of the organization, don't bother yourself to write. Number two, I've said that we should add them on our social media platforms. Once you add them, you'll be able to follow what others are saying about them. That's number two. Number three, do your background check. How do you do your background check? Even call the organization. I saw this thing online, and what do you have to say about it? There is no harm in calling them to verify if the information you are reading. Now, with the issue of infodemic and the rest, people just decide, call for proposal and rest, and they just share it. And some will have been closed maybe 2 years ago, and one guy will just be resharing it, and others will be lashing on to it. So, to me, I will advise that we do background check by calling the organization and call on your network also. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 people on your networks, if they have not heard about the organization, and you also reach out outside your network and you still no information, then be very careful. That's number three. Number four, if the amount look fantabulous too much, then something must be fundamentally wrong. Something must be fundamentally long. And if the organization calling for, that's number 4. Number 5, if the organization calling for grants is not a well-known organization, then be very careful. No, like now, if MTN is calling Airtel and this, and you just say Musatek from nowhere is now saying you want to award 50 million to people to write, you must know that Musatek is not a known organization, and it's now saying you want to award 50 million in grants. That's why when you see that, you do a follow-up, check on the web, check the social media presence, and that's number 5. Number 6, check the URL to the organization webpage. Check the URL to the organization webpage. So if the URL is looking a bit funny, then be very careful. Be very careful. That's another thing. That's another thing. So even if the organization is and you now see something that is very funny about the URL, then also be very careful. So, and then lastly, on your network, you may know some known reviewers. You can quickly also do a background check with them that I saw this thing from this organization. I just want to know if you are involved or you have any information about them. So with that, you will be guided and you will avoid all those errors. So those are what I can offer as suggestion as of now on how to avoid such a problem. Thank you. So do we have one? Can we take one more question before we move on?
Yes, sir. Good morning, sir.
Okay. Morning, ma.
Please, I want, as a young academician, I want you to advise me on how to start. I just got employed, and with all this craftsmanship, do I need to focus on skill acquisition or start writing for grant and the rest? Is there any grant for skill acquisition?
Okay. Thanks a lot. Yeah, thanks a lot. Let me congratulate you on your appointment as an academician. You have actually picked the right work to do, because nowadays our rewards are not only in heaven, but we have some on the surface of the earth. And we are a bit immune to what is called midlife crisis. Those of us in academic, we are a bit immune. And don't forget, unlike other fields, unlike those in the industry, the older you are there, the less valuable you are to them. Have you ever wondered, when you go to bank, do you see anybody with white hair in any of those banks? No. Where are they? They have shown them the way out. But in academics, you will see a lot of people with white hairs or gray hairs. So that means that in academics, the older you are, the more valuable you are. So let me thank you. Now, you have just joined and you are attending this course. That's the first thing you need to do. And you have started on a very good track. So that is one thing I want to tell you. So what you are trying to do is to learn about the job you have just gotten acquainted with or employed to do. So that's the best way to do, and now there are some grants that are available online. And then again, let me state it, being a female is another added advantage. There are lots of grants for females. I will also share that one with us. As I've said, on a weekly basis, we compile available opportunities. And then you can check some NGOs, SDG-related organizations that specifically fund females, especially early career females and the early career male. But your own opportunities or the opportunities available to you as a female, I can say is almost times 3 or 4 of that same opportunity available to me as a male. But don't forget, you need to search the web. So you need to search the web. And then what you are doing is also what's expected. You are getting the necessary skill to learn how to write. So that's just what is expected. You can now, so the next thing I will want you to do is maybe get a mentor or mentors to guide you. And we shall
Okay,
also,
sir.
and then after that, you may now organize yourself into what is called research group. Research group. If time permit me, I will still talk about research group today, because research group will assist you in growing, and leaning on the shoulder of giants in your higher institution. So you are on the right track and you are doing the right thing.
Okay,
So
sir. Thank you.
yeah, okay, so let us continue with the presentation so that just a minute. So let me start presenting.
Hello,
Okay.
sir.
Yes, hello.
Sir, may I ask this question, sir?
Yeah,
For
please go
for
on, sir.
the benefits of this training and for a subsequent development, so that at least out of whatever we learn here will make sense. Is it possible to organize the people of interest into a team group, and let's have something like a kind of a focus of a project, so that at the end of the day we can actually claim to be a reliable a grantmanship teams group,
Okay.
so that at least
So
it will be a point of reference to your noble's office for people that you have trained and they have established themselves in this field.
yeah, thanks a lot for that suggestion. I think we will consider it. First of all, we will form a maybe social media group where we basically share information about the side grants, and then we take it up from there. As I've said, when you look at the title of this call, it is just called Grantmanship-1, and we have to take it up to Grantmanship-5. Grantmanship-5. So that is it. So Grantmanship-2, you are only expected to take Grantmanship-2 after you have completed Grantmanship-1, because aside giving us the general idea now, we now need to now sit down and start writing, as you have said, and there will be feedback. So if you are interested in joining the group, unless the organizer will contact us and you can signify. And also that also enables us to have a very great network, because in some grants, they will say you need partners in maybe nothing less than 5 organizations. So I think the moderator and the organizer is online with us. They will do the needful. So let's quickly move on. What does donors look out for in grant application? As I've said, and I mentioned it yesterday, they look out for scientific merit, they look out for transparency, because when you write, you must be transparent enough. You are not expected to hide any information, because it's about sharing ideas and building the project. You are not expected to actually hide some steps and say, oh, if I disclose it, they will steal my idea. No, I don't think it's part of what is expected in any. So they look out for that. And then number 2, they look out for impact. Impact. Don't forget the money is there, but everybody wants you to make judicious use of the money provided. That is where the impact is important. Impact is necessary, because most funders seek enormous information about the expected result to identify that every penny spent will generate some impact at the ground level. Let me tell us one thing. COVID-19, I repeat again, COVID-19 has seriously brought lots of grants to us, more than before COVID-19. Now, there are a lot of grants online for virtual learning, for remote learning as a result of COVID-19. So one of the positive effects of COVID-19 is availability of more research funds to work with. That's number 1. And then number 2, the funding agency or the international funding agency have tried some some approaches in the past to reach out to people on the ground. They have tried some government, they have tried NGO, and the results have not been very, very good. Now they are trying research groups and higher institutions. So that's why you need to understand what grantmanship is all about, and you need to understand how to measure the impact. Impact simply means those who will benefit from the work. And based on impact, they award it. If your own grant is going to, if your own proposal is just going to impact 100 people, and another proposal will have impact on about 2 million people, which one do you think you will fund if you are the funding agency? And don't forget, nothing is free. They want you to impact some people on the ground. So don't forget transparency. Don't leave a gap in your methodology. That gap will be seen as not being transparent enough. And you must always remember impact. It's not just going to be about the YDX, it's about impact to the people on the ground. Capacity, again, what donors look out for? If you are writing about nanoclay now, nanoparticles, and in your team, nobody has ever worked along that line. Not only that, nobody has published along that line, and nobody in a CV has learned anything about it. So there's no way they'll be ready to fund it. So capacity is so much important. That is where the issue of publications comes in. I discussed that yesterday, that publication will allow you to get that grant. But without the right publication or right CV, we are still going to look at that as we go along. It means in grantmanship. Your resume also has a lot to do with you winning that grant. Not only your resume, how many of us has Google page or has website, because they may also need to do background check. And all these things add up to what is called our capacity. Donor agencies are interested to know how the organization proposing to implement a project is positioned in terms of skills and capacity to ensure that the project acquisition is in right hand. Capacity may also include equipment you have in your organization, the manpower you have in your organization, and how the manpower will use those equipment. So capacity is important. And again, budget. I will still share with us as we go along today. Budget is so important. And most of us make our budget to look as if it was just to meet necessary criteria. When the upper limit is 50 million and you are submitting that exact amount, 50 million 000 or 49 million 000, at times it raises an eyebrow that this is not a derived budget, but what you call Formula A to Jomo. That is, you just submit the budget based on the upper limit. That's another thing people doesn't. So the budget must be succinctly and precisely presented. So if your budget is too high or is too low, or there's some vagueness in your budget, mostly, again, another error, I will still take that in detail in the course of today. So why application fails to get funded? Before going to address the budget initially, let me also allow for question at this stage. I've told us what do not look out for in grant application: transparency, impact, capacity, and type of budget. So let's allow for question before we move on, please. So please, let's ask our question before we move on. Yeah, question, please, before we move on.
Okay. The question I have is in terms of the transparency.
Okay.
Okay. Just like you know that the ideas one have that one wants to really implement,
Yes, sir.
at times some of these ideas might be stolen, if I may use that word, and that is why some ideas like that have been they have patent for it in the long run. But in this early stage that one is looking for funding, one is at the mercy of those that want to give the grant or the funding. To what extent can one expose all the ideas one has, not jeopardizing all these things falling into the wrong hand, or at the end of the day, somebody may plagiarize, that we use that word, from the
Okay.
formula or ideas to do it, just to be able to play it safe at times, and at the same time, we want to be transparent.
Okay. Mostly, most of the proposals also have word limits and the rest. Word limits. Word limits. Aside our local issue here, I don't think people still are there across the world. Even if they still, they won't be able to implement it as you. But that's not the major issue. The major issue is let's try as much as possible to put everything we know or we have. They won't even ask you to, mostly they ask for high level summary. Like in your methodology now, it's high level summary that you have there. As of that time, it's still a proposal, not what you want to implement. So to me, summary will there and the rest. And I've not really witnessed it, but I've been hearing about it. But working on high level write up without removing or hiding any part of the information. That's my own view. Any other question? Any other question, please, before we move on? Can I move on to, so type if I should move on to the next, type yes for me to move on to the next slide, to the next part. Please type yes if you want me to move on to the next part. Okay, Kondo Mimido has actually raised, okay. Okay, I have two people here, Kondo and Professor Sakabalogun. Please, your question, please.
Yes, sir. Sir, thank you very much for the presentation so far. My question is about, you mentioned about having a Google page or a website. I know that having a website involves a lot, and for some of us who are just coming up, we can't really afford that. I want you to talk more on the Google page so that I will get the information, because I have little or no idea about that Google page. I don't know whether you're referring to YouTube channel, so I want you to talk more on that, sir.
There is Google Pay that you can use free of charge. It comes with your Google email and the rest, free of charge. And you can host, and then you can have it for yourself, put on what you want about it, put what you want to let people know about you on that without building your website. So Google page, and we also share information about the organizers. We hope the organizers are noting all what I've promised. One, we will share information about Google page also, so that you can create your own Google page. It's free of charge, it doesn't cost you money, and people can read about you on those web page. So
Thank you,
that
sir.
is one. And then it makes your life easy. You can easily update, and also have your Google Scholar account, Google Citation Index and the rest, and your hockey number. So that's, so Professor Sakabalo, over to you, sir.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you now, sir.
Yes, sir. Oh, I just want to ask, usually proposal presentation, usually the first set of presentation will be the summary. Then at the end of the day, they now have asked the selected few to write a full-blown proposal. And at the end of the day, they even need to come for interview. At the interview level, what are the things one should really prepare for? And what are the things one is expected to meet at that point?
Okay, sir. Thanks a lot. And let me quickly clarify. There are various approaches, and as I mentioned yesterday and today, it all depends on the organization. What some organization like TEDFund normally does has to do with one concept note. They will ask you to submit a concept note first. We are still going to be looking at concept note today. Concept note is just an abridged proposal, just to put the advice. It doesn't go more than 2-3 pages or 1,500 words. That concept note is to let people have an understanding of the idea. So that's another thing I will ask all of us to do after this talk. Any idea you have, develop a concept note about it. I will share, please organizer, please take note. Let's share template of concept note. And once the funding agency at times feel okay with your concept note, they will now say you can come and submit the full proposal. So at times, it's not everybody that submit concept note that get it to that stage. And after the full proposal, some organization will now say, come for interview and presentation. So while in some organization, it's just proposal from the beginning to the end, and there is no need for presentation at all. So it actually depends on the funding agency. Regarding your question, what are those things to expect? Number one, at the interview stage, I think I've attended nothing less than 7 to 10 proposal defense in the last 4 years. So what they normally ask for is to talk to them on the proposal. There's nothing new. They want to confirm that you have developed the proposal and you have good understanding of the proposal, and they want to clarify some gray areas in the proposal. So there are 2 types of proposal defense. It can be technical. Yeah, please, the moderator, please. So
Okay.
the moderator, please help us meet people. So there are 2 types of proposal defense, technical and financial, and some they marry the two together. For the technical proposal defense, you will only be taken on the DY/DX on the technical side of the work. That is where they look at your methodology. They now look at your objective and see the link between your problem statement and your objectives and the methodology. And they look at the materials that hope you are going to use the right materials. That is on the technical proposal defense. And once it is time for financial, they now marry your methodology, the approach with the budget. E.g., in the methodology, you have not said you will distribute questionnaires at 6 geopolitical zones. But in the financial now, you are now putting travel to 6 geopolitical zones to distribute questionnaires. So that's where they now take you up on all those ones. And then that is what they look out for. And then, like now, you say you will type letter, you will employ this, you will do that. They now look at the cost justification, that does it even merit it, what you have said you want to do, looking at it cost wisely. And sincerely, proposal defense to me gives you opportunity to win that proposal. That is what I've learned, because it now gives you opportunity to restudy. Don't forget, yesterday I mentioned that when you are given opportunity to correct an aspect of your proposal, use that opportunity to review the whole proposal and make necessary arrangement. Don't just think because they say that statement in line 2, paragraph 3 should be worse, and you have put is. That's just so. Use that opportunity. So when you are invited to come and defend your proposal, use that opportunity to review the proposal and use that opportunity to convince them. To me, it's an opportunity to convince them. And then, so what I will advise if you are invited for research proposal defense, prepare for both technical and financial, and be ready to justify. So after this one, after this section of this talk, you will understand what are those things you can look out for when you go for financial proposal defense. Thank you, sir. So let me quickly run through this one. Then during the next half break, we will now take. So preparing your research budget and what are those things? Reason for rejection. Reason for rejecting your financial proposal. Let me be sincere with you. So far, to the best of my own knowledge, more than 50% of the reason for rejecting proposal has to do with financial. See, technicality, maybe 30%. Technicality include cover page and number of words. Why scientific representation of fact is the least among those three reasons, which is just 20%. And the financial or budget is about 50%. So for every 10 proposals, rejected, 5 of it must be due to budget and financial. So that is why you have to take care of the budget more than anything else. Let me be sure that you are seeing my slide, please, by typing yes on the chat box. So what are the common mistakes? What are the common mistakes? You may think those common mistakes are too trivial, but they are: number one, exceeding budget limit. Number one, exceeding budget limit. Exceeding budget limit is one thing. Number two is addition or multiplication error. Addition or multiplication error. That addition and multiplication error mostly account for nothing less than 40%. 40% of the reason. 40% of missing justification. That's another reason. When you are writing, when you are preparing the budget, you must try as much as possible to provide justification. I will still show us a sample on that. And then no subsection. No subsection in our budget. That's another reason. There must be subsection. There must be equipment, material, personnel, travel, and the rest. And then number 5, disparity between objectives, methodology, and financial. I've mentioned that. That disparity is another thing that we have to look at. That's where not all parts of research proposal comes together. You don't take any part in isolation. They are all related. So the objectives must dovetail into methodology. And the methodology is what you do your financial proposal. And then major component not budgeted for. Major components. People at times, we want to do some work, and at the end of the day, what they have put to do to actually solve, they fail to budget component-wise for it. So these 6 reasons are common mistakes. How do you avoid multiplication error? Very easy. Just use Excel sheet or just use Excel sheet to handle that. At times, just addition of one single zero may lead to it. Like now, if you want to write 50,000 naira, and instead you put it as 500,000. That's an error. So that is where the reason and the idea I gave yesterday comes in, that give it to someone to help you proofread comes in. How to avoid some of the common errors? And then that is also what we assist you when you are going for research budget defense. Number one, knowledge. Full understanding of what research funding is all about, or what the research funding or the research project is all about, and then do a background check on the funds provider. If you have been mentioning this, and then review previous awards. That's another thing most of us never do. If you are seeking research funding from my organization now, you are expected to have reviewed those past awards and look at what is unique about them, what do they fund, and you can even contact them and have a discussion with them that, I saw on so website that you have won this grant before. Can you share information with me on how to go about it? So that's one thing I want us to know: knowledge, full understanding of what research funding is all about, the background check, and then review previous award and discuss with past awardees. Most of us, we don't do that, and we expect to just win. Number two, understanding. Be clear about the research aim, objectives, and methodology. You have to be clear about the research aim, objectives, and methodology. If the methodology,
Hello, sir.
Yes.
Sir, I just want to ask a question.
Yeah.
You made mention of trying to contact previous awardees and try to
Yes.
have a discuss with them. And
Yes.
you made mention of review previous awards.
Yes.
So I was thinking that was talking about maybe the research areas, maybe relevance or something. I don't know if you can elaborate more on the previous research awards.
Yeah. No, this is what I mean there. If assuming the organization has awarded 4 proposals, first of all, if you look at the title, look at the names of the beneficiaries, and you call or get across to the beneficiaries. That's what I mean. Apart from reading the document, get across to the beneficiaries, and if it involves you visiting the beneficiary, kindly go. So if they give you information given, we assist you in winning the grant.
Okay, so I thought it's something like this. For example, saying that I'm going to, let's say, for example, an MTN, maybe looking for a grant in a health sector, and I've seen that through their foundation, maybe, sometimes they release this kind of information as public information. It will appear like a news to say, so far we have spent X amount in financial sector using MTN Foundation over the last. So I thought it's that kind of information that I think somebody should include.
Yes, that type of information is also needed for you to win, because it tells you where that organization is going and what they are funding.
Okay.
So, and that type of information will now help you to know how to structure your grant. If you are working on diabetes, and that organization is funding malaria, fight against malaria. So it means that you have to drop your diabetes and look at
focus on
what
malaria.
They are presently funding, which is malaria. So that is what I mean.
Thank you very much for the clarification, sir.
So, but the information you are provided is also okay. Those information comes as public news, but you pick from here that, okay, this is what they are funding.
Okay.
And then, understanding the scope and keeping the scope narrow is so much important. And then sectionalize the financial in line with the methodology. And again, you can consult financial experts. Consult a financial expert in order to prepare good budget. Consult a financial expert. That's how you solve the problem of understanding. Amount. Sometimes you may need to write RFQ request for quotation in order to get the actual amount needed. But at times, you may have to estimate the cost. But when you are estimating, estimate the cost as accurate as possible. Nowadays, that in Nigeria that we have issue, if you are writing for international grant, it's better you have your cost in USD. You have your cost in USD instead of having the cost in Naira. So that is one. And if you now have your cost in Naira, put a caveat and you include the exchange rate you have put. And then number two, get written quotation if possible. I've mentioned that. When you do RFQ means request for quotation. You can send it to the organization to send you quote. But if you can't do that, you can even screenshot online prices and attach it as part of your quotation. Keeping scope narrow, ensure that your budget stay within limit. Most of us want to solve all the problems in the world, and it now makes the scope to be too wide. So have a very focused scope. Too low budget may make the work impossible to achieve and may jeopardize future chances. So that's another reason on how to solve the issue of amount. And then another one that I've not put here is the issue of tax or taxes. You have to take care of taxes when you are preparing your budget. Most of us, we are not very literate along that line. And I will recommend we also take a course on financial literacy. I think the organizer will also share information on financial literacy with us, because you have to add some taxes when you are preparing, especially when it is outside Nigeria. Like now, if you see an item as China at $2,000, and you now need to buy the item and it has to be shipped, don't forget import duties have to be there, transportation and rest. But most of us just put the cost of the amount. We never bother to add taxes and some other things associated with it. Amount is there. And then number four, software. Don't forget, we are talking about how to avoid the common errors. Number four is software. You can make use of some software to prepare your budget. And even if you don't have software, or some of these simple tools you have, like Excel and the rest, may be enough for you to prepare your budget. So don't just prepare your budget, but use infographic also to assist you, because you will have a lot of things to put in infographic in order to aid your work. And then basic knowledge of financial. I have mentioned that you can take a simple course on financial literacy, and you'll be able to understand what is called OPEX, CAPEX, operational expenditure, capital expenditure, vote, equipment, and rest. And then I have said that Excel sheet may assist you in order to do the work. And then make sure your direct costs, honoraria, facility, and administration are consistent with current rates. That's another thing. Honoraria, facilities, and the rest are consistent, and understand what the vote means and what they can provide for your grant. What can you request, how much, and in which year of your application. For your financial, I normally recommend both low and high level preparation. Some agencies we only want high level, while some we want it to low level. And reviewers will also use this as a measure of your competency in terms of research project management. Your votes, your headings must also play critical role. And then reviewers look for reasonable cost, and we judge whether your request is justified by your specific aim and methodology. And reviewers will judge whether the figures are in sync with their expectation based on research you propose. Significant over or underestimating suggests you don't understand the scope of work, and do not ask for anything that can appear to be extravagant, such as lot of travel. Ask for only enough money to do the work. That's one thing I want us to know. Enough money to do the work. Don't add your personal budgeting and the rest to the work. Just ask for enough money to do the work. And then suggestion, check what are the rules and regulations. I have mentioned that, read the instruction carefully yesterday, and I'm still repeating it. Do not forget, you need to read the instruction carefully, and then how much can you pay for support staff and the rest. And again, any amount you are issuing out, always ask for evidence and receipt. And then understanding this issue will allow you to estimate your cost as accurate as possible. That's another thing. And then emphasize what your institution will provide, as this will lower the budget. Too much budget may make it to sound outrageous, or too high budget may make it to sound outrageous to the funding agency. So that's another thing I want us to take note. And then make a persuasive case for investing in your team. I have mentioned that. Make a persuasive case. Be persuasive in your writing. Demonstrate that your project is cost effective and has significant impact for reasonability, for a reasonable cost. So that's on that funding. So let me now pause for question and answer before we move to the next part of today's talk. Thank you. So it's now time for question and answer once again. Question and answer, please. You can type your question, and then you can type your question, or you can omit yourself before we move on, please. Okay, Professor Sakabalogo, over to you, sir.
For the beautiful presentation. In fact, I have written a lot of proposals, but I don't always, give budget a lot of attention. And from this presentation, I can see that budget is very, very central. In fact, there was a proposal we wrote for Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. We were not so conscious of budget. So eventually, in fact, we were not even, we didn't move beyond the concept note level. So thank you very much for this presentation. I think we have learned a lot, and we will make sure that subsequent proposals we are going to write, we are going to lay a lot of emphasis on budgeting, and be able to marry the budgeting with the whole work. Thank you very much, sir.
Thanks a lot, sir. Yeah, budgeting accounts for 50% of rejection from past experience. Yeah, budgeting means that if the amount is 5 million and you now quote 5 million 1 naira, that 1 naira is over budget, and the proposal will not even be considered at all. So it's up to that level. Yes, a big cafe. Yeah, over to you, please. A big cafe Odiowe. So please, you can also ask your question. A big cafe, or if you have your question, you can type it on the chat box, but you can also ask. Don't forget, budgeting is so important, no matter what. After you write your proposal, ensure that the budget has been succinctly prepared. As I've said, this is just basic introduction to grantmanship. We are trying to touch every aspect of grantmanship, but the subsequent ones will be focused on grantmanship. So I think Ebikefe is out. So is there another question from anybody? As I've said, let's take a simple course on financial literacy. I will ask the organizer to send information to us, an online course on financial literacy to us. It will expose us to some of these simple errors like taxes, what are those things, and then who are those liable to pay? Yes, okay. Kondo, please, your question. Okay, I have a question here also. Yeah, low budget. Yeah, low budget is one of the reasons also why we reject some proposal. Let's assume the budget is 50 million and you are now applying for 2 million to do the work. That is extremely low. That means that is extremely low. You see that the scope is too small or you don't understand what you are budgeting for. So there is low budget. Like, so that is extremely low. So if you are saying the budget is 50 million, up to 30 million, 35 is still a very reasonable budget. But asking for 2 million out of 50 million makes it to be extremely low. Okay, Kondo, over to you.
Yes, that is the question I wanted to ask. But with respect to the low budget, you budget the funds you're supposed to use, but you know you can do that with that amount, and then they still reject. Why I'm saying this because there was a contract on NITEX portal that my company applied when I was working there in Abuja. So they rejected that one because they said it's below their standard, and this was something that we can
Exactly.
do. So in such a situation, what will you do, sir?
Increase the scope of your work. Increase the scope of your work in order to have a bit higher budget. Or, again, or you are underpaying your team. You are underpaying your team. E.g. now, if you are working for UN and you want to prepare the budget, and you are preparing for $1 per day for people working for you, that's extremely low budget. It will lead you to extremely low budget. So consider you are not using the right rate again, or what you, in the case that you have cited with us, it may be something of that nature also that you want to do the work and you have good understanding, but what you are saying, what you are asking for is extremely low. That's another thing. Now, to the question, do researchers in public institutions have a better chance to get grant than those in private institutions? No. What speaks for you is not where you sit down. Document. It's your document. So your document says it all, not about who has employed you. So that is my response on that one. Your document says it all. Your document what? Says it all. That's what I will advise on that one. So let's take one more question because I ought to start the next one by 12 and we still have around 2 more minutes. We still have around 2 more minutes. So I want us to type what you have learned in the 2 sessions that we have conducted up till now, the 2 sessions. So I have talked about general overview of grantmanship today, and then what are those things that may not allow you to win the proposal and the common error. So let me see what you have gained so far before we move to the next aspect, please. So while I prepare my slide for the next show. So I will start that one by 12 on dot. So type whatever you have learned on the chat box. Don't forget, let's learn how to share idea, learn how to share information, build network across our institutions, and collaborate. So what have you learned? Put it on the chat box. Let's see. Let's learn from you too. Learning is 2 ways. It's not just a one-way approach. What have you learned? Put it on the chat box. Let's see. Okay. Madam Mutia Mohammed, your question. Okay, I agree. Underpaying yourself and your staff can lead to low budget. Which school? lead to rejection. Exactly. I've learned the importance of budgeting, grant writing. Yes, that budget preparation is very, very important. Budget preparation. Yes. Okay, Madam Mutia, your question before we move on. Reason for rejection, technicality, scientific, and financial. And financial is responsible for more than 50%. So, Madam Mutia, over to you. Yes, you can unmute yourself, Madam Mutia, and ask your question before we move on. It seems I'm not here. Or you can type it. Okay, you can type your question. Okay, let's move on then. So this is the summary of why grant application failed to get funded. Number one, ignoring the guidelines. Number two, vagueness. Number three, too broad a proposal. I've said it. And then too narrow a proposal. Too broad a proposal means it will definitely lead to over budget. And then too narrow a proposal means it will lead to under budget. And then vagueness means that you are not talking, you are not putting things right, and then ignoring the guidelines. And also lack of history. I've mentioned that. Lack of history. That's history. You can get your history by publication. You can get history by publication, by doing some low grant work along that, and then negative history. I've not talked about negative history. Negative history means that you get a grant and you fail to make maximum use of it, and they now blacklisted such an organization. That is what you call negative history. And then no clear evaluation plan. At this stage, you must also put milestone and evaluation criteria and what is called risk and assessment. So that's another thing. And the lack of knowledge and skills. So those are the 8 things I've discussed here today. Why grant application failed to get funded. Number one, you ignore the guidelines. I emphasize that the vagueness, too broad a proposal, and then too narrow a proposal, and then lack of history, or you have negative history, and then no clear evaluation plan with lack of knowledge and skills. That's another thing. So those are the 8 things I want us to know. And it has to, and then don't forget, financial is so much important. So let's take a look now on how to write a grant proposal. Engineer Yinka has mentioned that to us, and I remember mentioning it in the narrow focus yesterday that it has about 3 stages. Number one, planning. Planning is important. And then number 2, after planning, is the writing. And then, because if you don't plan, you won't write very well, and the submission. And we also share with us, maybe not now, the spiritual side of writing proposal. So the VC of Osun State University mentioned something along that line, a lecture along that line too. So we may invite him also to come and share with us and the rest. But today we are focusing on the technical side, writing a grant proposal. So if you take care of your budget, that means that you have 50% chances of winning the grant. So how to write a grant proposal? Number one, as I've said, is a time consuming. It's a full-time work. Full-time. You can't just assume that you will quickly rush it and you will get submitted and the rest. And no. If this is your organization's first attempt at applying for a grant, the entire process will benefit your organization because it will allow you to form a team, move a team forward, and your goal is to end up with a well-conceived proposal that will lay strategy to address the problem. So we are also still going to be looking at business proposal, and we are going to be using Tony Elumelu Foundation template to talk about that, and we are going to be using Nigerian Communication Commission NCC template also to talk about academic proposal. Number one, step one, agree on the problem with your team. Engineer Sailu just call our attention that some of these problems the organization or the funding agency want to solve have also been passed as part of common news. Yes, that's why you need to now agree with them and in order to get this. So that's where the issue of agree on the problem comes in. Start by identifying a need. You can identify that need by what the organization put. You can see the screen? Wow. Sorry, please. Okay. Okay. So these are the 8 things I mentioned: ignoring guidelines, vagueness, too broad a proposal and too narrow a proposal, and then this. So you have the slide. So this is where we are. Step one in writing a proposal. And don't forget, yesterday we said, writing a proposal, you have 3 stages: planning. The first thing on the planning stage is agree on the problem. Start by identifying a need. You can identify the need by reading information about what the organization is all about or what exactly you want to solve. And then you can involve stakeholders. You can define the problem or the situation. And then you can define the impact, describe the impact about that. So these are how you get the problem to be solved. Investigate possible causes of the problem. So that's what I will always advise on: agree on the problem. If you don't agree on the problem, you won't be able to write a good proposal. That is number one. Number two is, okay, once you agree on the problem, then step two is you form your team. You form your team. Don't forget, yesterday I've mentioned that forming your team allows you to rely on someone else's skills where you have deficient skill. And you can also quickly do that and achieve that by having what is called a research group. A research group. So once you have a team to solve the problem, you look for those who have the right skills and you put them in the team. Teamwork, team science is the order of the day. And step three, describe what you hope to achieve. Describe what you hope to achieve. And this one, you can easily get it done when you even try to have it as a concept note. You have described a problem and identified the most likely causes. Now you need to focus on the solution and the desired outcome of your proposed activity. What will occur as a result of your project, that's what we call the expected outcome. And we have impact. Impact will be what will happen as a result of your work. And then some impacts may not be smart in nature, but it can lead to this. But expected outcomes must be related to your research objectives. Okay, please kindly note, if your research objective is 4, minimally your expected outcomes from your work should be 3, if not 4 or more than 4. And it must be 1-to-1 ratio because each objective must have an outcome. Set realistic and achievable outcomes. That's another thing you need to know. Some of us set outcomes that are not related to the research objective. And you must know what is called key performance indicator. That is, you must measure and record the output of your work and focus on end results. Focus on the end result of the work. They are so much important. So describe what you hope to achieve. Number 1, identify the problem. Step 2, identify the team and the resources to solve the problem. Number 3, describe what you hope to achieve. And then step 4, design your program. Design your program. Don't forget, this is still under the planning stage. Now that you know where you are and where you want to go to, the next steps is determining the best way to get there and get expert opinion. I've mentioned that, research on what others have done. That is your literature review. Get buy-ins from stakeholders. You must have done that under stage 2, where you look for team to do it and clearly describe your solution. Don't forget, you can give it to someone who has no idea about it to help you look at. That's step 4. And step 5, locate funding sources. As I've said, there are 2 types of proposal: solicited and unsolicited proposal. If it is solicited, then you don't have to locate funding sources. That is, the funding sources are already there. But in this case, you are looking for funding sources. To my team in Summit University, that's what we are presently doing. We have some of the grants, or we have some of the proposal ready, and now we are now looking for whom to talk with. That is locate funding source or funding sources. And that one means that we need to look for those organizations that works in that area, and what do they fund, and then do you qualify? And we have to look at us qualifying for the funding. Like now, if you are looking for third fund as funding agency because we are a private university, they may not give us listening ear. So that's what the qualification means. And can you meet all the grant requirements? We have to look at that also. So locate funding sources or funding source. And then number 5, write the proposal. Write the proposal. When you look at follow the instruction. Instruction is so much important, and the criteria for the award. And then professional writers, especially for those of us in the business world, you may need to hire a professional writer or language editor that after the whole write-up, he or she helps you to edit the work. So that's step 5. And then, so as I've said, so I will quickly take this. How to access fund when there is no grant. These are places you can go to access fund when there is no grant. Number 1, your bank, but that one has to be loan, and not all banks takes loans. Some still give grants, and then grants is totally different from loan. And then seek help from friends and family. And then you have the venture capitalist, you have the angel investor, you have the crowdfunding, and then strategic partner, personal saving. Those are the areas you can get funding. So let's now take question before we now move to the next part of the work. So we have used the last 15 minutes to just look at what is called how to write a grant proposal and the stages involved. So let me allow for question before we move on to the next stage. So while I load the next slide for us, which is writing grant proposal. So let's get question across, please. Question. So please type your question. We have around 3 minutes to 5 minutes to take this question, and you can use this time to quickly stretch your leg in order to or fill your cup of tea. Fill it, please. So please question. Question, please. So you can type your question if you think what you want is to type. Please feel free. Feel free to type. Okay, I will be taking on, okay, I'll be talking about concept note. So I will start with concept note, but before that, let me still allow for question. Start, but ahead of that, can you list out to me? So let us type what are the steps to be taken when you want to write your concept, your proposal. So let's list it out. So also I will start this next section by 12:20, so which is 5 minutes, but away from now. But let us just type out what are those things you think should be done when we are writing our proposal. Yes, type it out. Yes, yes, yes. Okay, agree on the problem, form your team, describe what you hope to achieve, design your program, locate funding, and write your proposal. Okay, any other person? So for this talk, I will be talking about concept note. Concept note. Then I will now, but I will use that, I will take a case study using that of TED Fund as a case study, because so that you can know what TED Fund wants for some of us that may be making it to the next stage. TED Fund called for proposal. And after this one, this concept note, that's the beginning, then I will now discuss, this proposal also, just for us to have good understanding. So, are we set? Let me know if you are set. So how you can let me know is by typing yes on the chat box, that yes, we are set. So please, are we set for the next part? So we only have two parts left, concept note and proposal. Concept note and proposal. Concept note and proposal. So let me know if you are set by typing yes, and we still have 2 more minutes before we start this next section. So you can still use that time to refill your teacup. So please type yes if you want us to continue. And we are set.
Hello, sir. You're currently muted.
Okay, it's time for us to start. It's time for us to start. Oh, okay. You can hear me now?
Yes, sir. We can hear you now, sir.
Okay, fine. Let's start by asking ourselves, we are going to use TED Fund so this is the learning objective. At the end of this presentation, you should be able to describe generic concept note and prepare award-winning NRF concept note. We are only using NRF TED Fund for just for learning sake. So what is a concept note? That is the first question. What is a concept note? What is a concept note? You must get to know that concept note submission or winning a proposal is a competition. You must get that one by now, that winning a compete that is getting your concept notes approved is a competition. And in a competition, all of you are looking for the same thing and the rest. And then it's not only a simple competition, but a serious and great competition. So that's why you have to give it all what it takes. So just have it that a concept note is a competition. But actually, technically, it's not like that, but that's what I want us to take note that when you are submitting your concept note for funding, for acceptance, it's more or less like you are participating in an Olympic game, and it's very, very competitive. A concept note is a brief outline of the project you have in mind. It's just a brief outline of what you might have in mind. And generally, simple version of it include introduction, background, objectives, result and methodology, and budget overview. Mostly, concept notes shouldn't be more than 2 to 3 pages, except and otherwise, the funding agency asks you to submit more than that. That is what a concept note is all about. It should not be more than 2 to 3 pages. And then most donors publish the call for concept note on their website. That's why you have to go through their website. And for some of us that have not been attuned to what LinkedIn can provide, LinkedIn is a very good point or very good place. You can get call for proposal or call for concept note. An example of organization that request general concept note include TED Fund, USAID, UKID, World Bank, and the rest. So again, concept note is a brief outline of the project you have in mind, and a simple version of it includes introduction, background, objective, result, and budget overview. There are basically two types of concept note, just like I've mentioned that of proposal. So we have the solicited concept note, and we also have the unsolicited concept note. Solicited concept note is when you are invited to submit a concept note, then your submission is regarded as a solicited one. And that is what TED Fund asks for. That's an example. And this may also be as a result of your preliminary discussion or a conversation with a donor. And they will now ask you to submit. That is solicited. But when you send a concept note without an invitation to an organization asking them for funding or for acceptance, that is what we call unsolicited concept note. Though it has the least though it is the least successful, but it is okay to give it a shot. We have had instances that we got approval from such an approach. So that's what we call unsolicited concept note. So you must be rest assured. As of now, you are free to try the two, either solicited or unsolicited. So general information required in a concept note. Number one is the name of the organization, title of the proposed project, rationale or reason behind the proposed project, the strategy, the expected result, what is new inside it, and how is it different from others, and information about your organization and budget estimate with timeline. So these are some of the general information required in a typical concept note. But it varies from organization to organization. Some may want more than this, so it's now left for you to satisfy the requirement. But this typically this is the list of what normally you should have in your concept note. And then when you see, so general information, as I've said, you have the bag research title. I normally advise don't let the title be more than 21 words. Background to give information of the work, the short-term and the long-term goal. Statement of problem, the aim and objectives. And so these are the 5 rules I want you to understand with concept note. 5 rules. Number one, keep it brief. Keep it brief. Despite the fact that it's a concept note, it must be brief and answer this question. What's the idea? Why is the idea important? Who are the customers? And then who will benefit from the work? You must mention that no matter how brief the concept note will be. Number 2, don't write to yourself, write for the funding agency. That means that explain your idea clearly. Explain your idea clearly and what is it all about. Just ensure that it is concise and precise. Concise and precise. Number 3, write to your audience. I've mentioned that. While writing your concept note, keep your audience in mind and not yourself, except if you are the one that will fund it, then you can write to yourself. Number 4, spell out the benefit. Don't assume that your audience knows what are the benefits inherent in the work. No, you must spell it out. Number 5, put it all together as a document in maximum 2 to 3 pages, and then to draw the eye to each point. Consider subheadings such as concept, how this share will differ and less and benefit. That is, you must have subheadings in your concept note. So those are the five key rules for your concept note. So for TED Fund NRF, that's what they have asked for. But in their own, they have 3 major categories: humanities, STI, and cross-cutting. And then these are the thematic areas you can write for. And if you are writing for ICT and telecom, don't go and submit it on social welfare. Just write for what you believe in. And then under TED Fund, concept note is the concept note is the first stage of the call, and it's used to briefly describe the research project. It will be evaluated, and if found fundable, will be asked to move to second stage, as Professor Balogo asked some few minutes ago, and it is maximum of 1,500 words. And then these are some of the headings in TED Fund concept note: title, thematic area, background, statement of further objective, question, literature review, framework, and so on. So, and then for their own, they have your budget also must be distributed in this form. Equipment should not be more than, the cost of equipment should not be more than 25% of the total cost you are asking for. While personnel costs must not be more than 20%, and travel should not be more than 5%, with dissemination 3%. If you flout any of these rules, it will lead to disqualification. So, and then this is how the marks. TED Fund award the marks based on this already. Title and background 10, statement 10, objective 10, literature review 5, theoretical framework 5, research methodology 15, and so on. So that is how the scoring is being awarded here. So let me leave room for question here before we move to the last part of today's talk. So let's ask question on concept note, please. So you can unmute yourself. You can unmute yourself to ask question on concept note, please, before we take the last part. So let's ask our question, please. Let's ask our question. You can type it. Yes, I'm actually waiting for question, clarification. Okay. Question, clarification, please. So, okay. Question, clarification. So, Engineer Yinka have mentioned or have reviewed the issue. Okay, the last time we submitted a concept note was in the center of the research question. Okay. Yes. Okay, research question. Okay, I will take that one, the research problem and the objective and the research question. Okay, I will take that one right now. Okay, but I think the most important part should be the objective. So, but I will see if I can quickly also take that, please. Okay, any other question? Okay, I will take that one right now. So that's the last part of what we are going to write in consulting our research team. Is it possible to include a postgraduate who is yet to be employed? Yes, of course, in the team. It's always good. What will be his effect on the grants? That shows that you have mentoring plan in place. If you include either undergraduate or postgraduate that is yet to be employed, that's not an issue. I think it's a plus to your team. It's a plus to your team. It's a plus to your team. Okay, so it's a plus to your team. So it's a plus to the team. Okay, let's start the last part. Let's start the last part. Just a minute. Let me just load the formulating research. Just a minute. Let me load the slide. Just a minute. Okay, so the last part of today's talk is research proposal itself. So, and the research proposal will assist us to understand some of those things we are here to learn, and it will assist us. So I have just 20 minutes, I have just 15 minutes for that. So let's start with the question asked by our big daddy in the house. Okay, concept note, yes, research objective. So number one, why define research problem? Let's ask ourselves, why do you have to define the research problem? Number one, it helps you to define your destination even before you begin the journey. Defining your destination before you begin the journey. That's why define the research problem. Number two, it helps you to determine what you will do. Will it stand scientific scrutiny, and how you will do it, and what you may achieve. So these are some of the reasons why we describe research problem. And then, how is research problem selected? Number one, research interest in a topic, or you may have your own interest in particular area. It may be as a result of national or agency priority. As we said the other time, if MTN is funding malaria and you are working on diabetes, you may need to actually review and say, okay, let me be working on malaria so that I can get funding. And then it may be urgent, like we have just passed through COVID-19. When you look at COVID-19 period, everybody then, they were always working on ventilator and the rest. So urgency of an issue, and again, availability of research grant, availability of research grant. That may be another reason why you work on any research grant and the rest. So availability of funding, that may be another thing why you, and then availability of supervision. If you may want to work in an area, and if you don't have supervisors to supervise the work, it may affect you finishing on time. So summarily again, why define the research problem? Number one, defining the research problem is good so that we define the journey even before beginning, and it helps us to determine what we will do and how it will stand scientific scrutiny and how to do it and what we are going to achieve. And how do we select the research problem? You can see how we select research problem here. And then steps in defining research problems. What are the steps? What are the steps? Number one, identify a broad topic, a broad area. You identify that, a broad topic or a broad area. Then number two, identify from that broad area, you now zoom it down to a very small area. That is why it says zoom it down. Narrow the topic. Don't forget we have said it must not be too broad. Number three, raise questions based on what you want to do. Raise questions. And the question you are raising will assist you to formulate the objectives, the research objectives. And the research objective, you must use action-oriented words to design, to develop, to demonstrate, to evaluate, to measure. And your objective must be smart in nature, that is, must be specific, measurable, achievable, responsive, and time-bounded. Again, steps in defining research problem. Identify a broad topic, then from that you zoom down to narrow topic, you raise question, and you try to answer those questions by formulating your research objective. E.g., what do we mean by identifying broad topic? Think of that big picture. What is the problem that you are trying to solve? More about, consult textbook about that broad topic so as to assist you, and then pick one based on your interest and relevance, and at times magnitude of work involved. Because if you don't pick the right magnitude, it may lead to underfunding or under budgeting. And then level of your expertise, yours and your team or your advisors. It's not only about you. You look at, do you have expertise in that field? Number one, think of the big picture. What's the problem all about? Think of what you want to learn about it, and then think of how it can be done better. That's how you identify broad topic. And then example of broad topics include optimizing productivity of land and water resources. That's still broad. Ensuring food safety and security is still broad. So, and then from that broad topic, you can now be talking about narrow topic. And we have examples of a narrow topic here now, liver diseases in goat. Some will still argue that liver disease in goat is still a bit broad, that you can now zoom down to one particular one. Greenhouse in agriculture, make quality. So it all depends. So we are going to see the difference or differences between broad topic and narrow topic now. So when selecting a narrow topic, think how it can contribute towards solving the big problem. Don't just think of the narrow topic only. It must contribute in solving the big problem. So this is what I want to share with us now. Food insecurity is a very big problem. It's a broad problem or a broad topic. Food insecurity. Hope you are seeing my screen, please. Food insecurity is a broad topic. And then from this broad topic, we now come down to these two narrow topics. Labor productivity, that is, food insecurity may be as a result of low labor productivity or low land productivity. And then from low land productivity, you can see how we come up with other ones. So the whole idea is that food insecurity is a big problem, it's a broad topic. But now we are now trying to zoom down to narrow topic that you can work on. So what I'm showing you on the screen is what you call the problem tree. And you keep on asking why. Why food insecurity? That's the first question. Why food insecurity? It may be as a result of low labor productivity or low land productivity. What are those things that might be responsible for low land productivity? We have the poor soil, we have the unsuitable crops, we have the water scarcity, we have unsuitable climate. What could have been responsible for low labor productivity? We have the unskilled labor. So Then you ask the next stage. Let's just ask the next stage and you can see what are those things that we can say, what are the main causative effects of poor soil. Number one, farming pattern do not return nutrient. Farmers can't afford fertilizer, and then farmers are unaware of best practices. And then we also have so what we is the second stage, and the third stage you have it there. So by the time you are on this third stage, it's narrow enough. And what you are now trying to solve, and the method will now be on the fourth level. So that's what I normally recommend as per problem 3. So that is about problem 3. Proposal writing, engineering can apply to take that. I've mentioned that one before now. You have the title, you have the introduction. Under introduction, we have some subheadings and the rest. And then we have the objective, material and method, and tentative timetable. It's important. And lastly, the budget. No matter what, budget is important. So title, keep it specific and short, and it must not be vague. So engineering have mentioned that for the introduction, it's always good you start writing from the general view, and you now zoom down to what exactly you want to do. I normally say, let it follow inverted triangle from the broad to narrow. And also for your problem section or problem 3, let it also follow inverted triangle. For the objectives, it must provide a clear statement of the overall question, general objective for research aim, and then you can now go to specific objectives. And if not, and don't let your aim be more than one. The objectives of a research summarizes what is to be achieved by the study and how they are closely related to the problem statement. They must be. Your objective must be closely related to the problem statement. So there are two types of objective: general objective and specific. General objective is what you call aim. While specific objectives are those ones that are smaller in nature, and they give you how you want to achieve the general. The specific objective are smaller in nature, and they give you step by step or logically how you want to achieve the general objective. And then they must systematically address the general objective. So this is an example of a general objective, and then which we can now see them being broken down to specific objectives here. So basically, that's why should research objective be developed? Number one, to focus the work, to avoid collection of what is not needed, and to organize the study clearly and making it to be well defined. And then proper formulated specific objective, we facilitate the development of our research methodology, and we help to reorientate the collection and understanding of the work. So those are the things that you have under specific objective. Majorly, the specific objective must be coherent, logical in sequence, and must be in operational term. What do we mean operational term? To determine, to compare, to verify, to calculate, and avoid the use of vague non-action verbs such as to appreciate, to understand, to study. All those ones are non-action verb and they are not measurable. So hypothesis is a prediction of a relationship between one or more factors and the problem under study that can be tested. We have the null hypothesis. So a key factor of all hypothesis is what we call prediction. But in the business proposal, you don't need this one. So characteristic of objective, it must be in declarative statement that identify the predicted relationship, and two or more variables must be testable, must be based on logical sequence. Majorly, there are two types: null and alternate hypothesis. So those are the things. So I won't go so much deep in those ones, but the most important thing I want us to actually understand is the methodology. It must be explicit, it must contain enough detail for the reader to follow. That's why we say it must be convincing and you must be transparent enough. And then, however, first give an overall summary of your design and methodological approach. Give an overall before you now dwell in, and then provide the methodology for each specific objective. And then describe the design, the materials, and the feasibility, and the need for repeated. So let your methodology address all this. And the last one is references. List all references listed in an, if it is upper format, then it must be in an alphabetical order. If it's inside IEEE format, then it must be numeral. So, and the last one is the Gantt chart. You must include the Gantt chart, no matter what, when you are writing proposal. The budget, we have taken it before now. Let your budget be succinct, be accurate, and don't forget, it's about you. Thank you all for listening. So we have the last set of question and answer, and we end today's interaction and the end of Grantsmanship-1. Thank you. Okay, sir. So if you have question, you can ask your question. You can omit yourself. Sheikh Ismail Allah Jade, sir, you can ask your question, sir. Okay, if you have more, if you have others with question, you can omit or you can type it. We are very grateful. So please ask your question.
Hello.
Hello, sir.
Thanks so much, Prof.
Yes, sir.
The question I want to ask now is just your advice on how to surmount this issue of fear, the fear, and to remove the force of inertia. You know, when you want to do some things and you are foot dragging. In this
okay
circumstance, in this situation where we're trying to do grantsmanship, you know, it's not impossible that one may be having one fear or the other and things like that. What is your advice on this? Thank you.
Oh, okay, thanks a lot, sir, for asking question on how to summon the force of inertia. Let us take it from even Newton's law of motion. He said an object will continue to stay in a state of rest or uniform motion unless it's being acted upon by an external force. Most of us will go through that stage. But one thing again we must know is that if we don't submit, we can't win. If we don't submit, we can't win. And how can you submit if you don't write? And how can you write if you don't submit that first inertia of what do I want to write about? So the basic thing I normally advise is start from concept note of 1,500 words. Again, 1,500 words. If we are chatting with our friends and we chat just for 1 hour, we have used more than 1,500 words. So what I normally advise is that see that you want to write the concept note as if you are writing to your friend. You are writing to your friend. You are writing to your friend, and you'll be able to summon that one. So that is number one. Number two, there is that fear in all of us that we can win. But me, I normally say once I can summon the fear of that concept note, once I have my concept note, then others are just too, I don't care about others. I normally rely on this Yoruba adage that says that that is, after I might have developed the concept note, others I must submit. So that is another thing. And submission, we must also learn one thing again, is that participating is so much important. Winning is just a more or less like a blessing. But the first thing we own ourselves is to participate. Is to participate. Is it Martin Luther King or someone that says the joy of it is in the participation? It's like going for an Olympic. Number one, if you are going for an Olympic, you don't start preparation or preparing for the Olympic 2 months, 3 months, 4 months to the Olympic. You start years ahead. And then the expert starting years ahead, that does not guarantee. But there's likelihood that once you start years ahead, you may likely win. Look at Nigerian team, the dream team of '96. You can see the history of the team before they actually won the gold in the Olympic. But since after that, why have we not been able to perform the same magic? It has to do with us not having a very good team that practiced together for a very long time. So that is what I will answer on that one. So summarily, the inertia, just look at it, be focused on the 1,500 words that I just want to write 1,500. That one, 1,500 words means that if I'm marrying it in 10 words or 10 words per or statement, I will just have 150 sentences to actually write. And that is too small. So that's where we should start from. It will assist us. We give it to our friends to help us review, and it will assist us. You mentioned earlier to give the classes a take-home assignment of a concept note. Yes. Yes, I'm going to give that one, the take-home assignment on concept note on NCC template. So let me quickly address that. After this, sir, hope I've answered the question, sir.
Excellently well, sir. Thanks so much.
Just I think. So after this, I want us to go on the internet. You will see NCC call for Decide 20. You see, just take one. Just take one out of it, and based on that, you develop your concept note. You can submit it via. So once we open the group platform, we will take it from there. So that is one thing. And then I got a request to submit CV as a first stage for a grant. Are there ingredients that should be in a CV to attract funders? Yes. So that is also, I mentioned that yesterday. I mentioned that yesterday, that your CV, your paper publish, your CV one and papers that you are, and they have lots of things to say about you before the funding agency will give you. So if in your CV you have not put related work there, they may not be willing to give you the grant or say you can go ahead. Normally, some agency will ask you to just write one page about the team, and you include all these of the team members. So in a case like that, you have to prepare a special CV for that. Also, let me use this opportunity to inform us, you must not have one fit all type of CV. If you use one CV for third fund, when you are writing for NCC, you may have to also develop another CV. Don't just assume that because you have one CV, you can submit it to all funding agencies. So some agencies ask for CV, even not concept note. From the CV now, they will now check, does your team have the right prerequisite skill, knowledge, and team members, and have you worked on that in order to get this other grant? That is what they do there. So please request for CV, and your CV should be well formatted, well prepared. Organizer, can you please help us organize another talk only on CV preparation, please? CV preparation, because CV is CV is your first interaction with